Captain Juan stood on the bridge of the human ship defiant. His dark eyes looked at the stars through the big window. Space was quiet here, but not for long. Soon they would face the biggest alien fleet anyone had ever seen. "Captain," said Nari from her seat at the engine controls, "we're almost at the jump point. Are you sure about this?" Juan turned to look at his engineer. Nari was small but smart. Very smart. She had built things for this ship that no one else could understand. Her hands moved over the controls like she was playing music. "I'm sure," Juan said. His voice was calm. "We knew this day would come." At the weapons station, Taiho checked his systems one more time. He was quiet like always. Taiho never wasted words. When he spoke, people listened. When he fought, enemies died. "Weapons ready, Captain," Taiho said. "All systems working." Minji sat at navigation. She was young but brilliant. She could fly this ship through a meteor storm with her eyes closed. Right now, she was planning their route through what would soon become a battlefield. "Jump coordinates locked in," Minji said. "The Kepler system is waiting for us." At communications, June listened to radio signals from across the galaxy. He spoke many alien languages. He was the voice of humanity when they needed to talk to other species. Today, he would speak words that would change everything. "Captain," June said, "I'm picking up the alien fleet signals. They're laughing about something." Juan walked to the center of the bridge. The Defiant looked old from the outside. The hull was gray and scratched. The engines were from an older design. Anyone looking at it would think humans were still using primitive technology. They would be wrong. "Take us in," Juan ordered. The ship jumped. Space twisted around them, and suddenly they were somewhere else. The Kepler 442 system spread out before them, and there, waiting for them, was the largest fleet of warships anyone had ever seen. 200 ships. Maybe more. They came from 12 different alien species, all working together in the Galactic Trade Consortium. The biggest ship was huge, a mountain of metal and weapons floating in space. Smaller ships surrounded it like angry insects. "Look at that," whispered Minji. "I've never seen so many ships in one place." The alien fleet filled the space around them. Battleships with thick armor and massive guns, cruisers that moved fast and hit hard, destroyers that could tear apart anything smaller than themselves, and fighters, hundreds of small fast ships that swarmed around the bigger ones. "They're signaling us," June said. "The flagship wants to talk." "Put them on screen," Juan said. The main screen lit up. An alien face appeared, reptilian with golden eyes and sharp teeth. This was Admiral Vextar of the Saurians. He was the leader of this massive fleet. "So," Vextar said, and his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "The humans finally show up. One ship." He paused, then started laughing. It was a horrible sound. Other voices joined in. Alien captains from across the fleet were laughing too. The sound came through every speaker on the bridge. Dozens of different species all laughing at the lone human ship. "One primitive vessel," Vextar continued, still laughing, "against our entire armada. This is the best joke I've heard in years." Juan stepped forward. His face showed no emotion. "We're here to negotiate. You have taken human colonies. You have enslaved our people. We want them back." The laughter got louder. "Negotiate?" Vextar's golden eyes gleamed. "You bring one tiny ship to negotiate with 200 warships? Human. Your people are even more stupid than we thought." On the communications channel, other alien voices could be heard making bets. How long would the human ship last? Would it explode in one hit or two? Some aliens were betting on whether the humans would run away before the fight even started. "Your people picked the wrong system to defend," Vextar said. "We've been watching you humans for years. Your technology is decades behind ours. Your ships are slow and weak. Your weapons barely work." Nari's fingers tightened on her controls. She wanted to show these aliens how wrong they were. But not yet. Not until the captain gave the order. "We know all about your ships," another alien voice said. This one sounded like singing, but mean singing. "Metal boxes with primitive engines. You still use kinetic weapons while we have plasma cannons." More laughter. The aliens were enjoying this too much. "Captain," Taiho said quietly, "should I power up weapons?" "Not yet," one said. He was still looking at the screen, still calm. Vextar leaned forward. "I'll give you one chance, human. Turn around and run. Tell your people that this system belongs to the consortium now. Do this and you might live long enough to see your home world again." "No," Juan said. "Just one word." The alien laughter stopped. "What did you say?" Vextar's voice was dangerous now. I said no. We won't run. We won't abandon our people. And we won't let you keep taking human worlds. Vextar showed his sharp teeth. Then you will die. But first, let me show you what real power looks like. The screen switched to show the outside view. The alien fleet was spreading out, surrounding the Defiant. Battle formations took shape. Weapons powered up. Energy fields shimmered around the alien ships. Look around you, human, Vextar said. 200 ships. Enough firepower to destroy a planet. And you? You have one old ship with 5 people inside. Juan looked at his crew. Nari's hands were ready on the engine controls. Tejo was calm at weapons. Minji had calculated 17 different escape routes. Jun was recording everything for the history books. Admiral Vextar, Juan said, his voice carrying to every ship in the alien fleet. You've made a mistake. You think we're weak because we look weak. You think we're afraid because we came alone. You should be afraid, Vextar snarled. No, Juan said. You should be. The alien admiral's laugh was cold and cruel. 5 humans against 200 ships? Your species really is insane. Maybe, Juan said. But there's something you don't know about us. What's that? We're most dangerous when we're protecting our families. Nari's hands moved over her controls. Deep in the ship's hull, systems that had been sleeping began to wake up. Energy flowed through new pathways. The ship's hull began to change color just a little bit. If you knew what to look for, you might notice a faint blue glow, but the aliens didn't know what to look for. This is your last chance, Vextar said. Surrender now or we'll blow you apart piece by piece. Juan smiled for the first time since they'd arrived. It wasn't a nice smile. Admiral, he said, you wanted to see what human technology can do. You're about to get your wish. The alien fleet finished surrounding them. 200 ships, all with weapons pointed at the small human vessel. The Defiant sat in the middle of them all, looking helpless and alone. Vextar raised his hand. In a few seconds, he would give the order to fire. In a few seconds, he thought this would all be over. He was right about one thing. It would all be over soon, but not the way he expected. Admiral Vextar dropped his hand. Fire! The space around the Defiant exploded with light and death. 200 ships opened fire at once. Plasma beams cut through the darkness. Energy missiles streaked toward the small human vessel. Laser cannons painted lines of pure destruction across the void. It was the biggest attack anyone had ever seen in this part of the galaxy. Evasive maneuvers, Juan shouted. Minji's hands flew over her controls. The Defiant twisted and spun through space like a dancer. Plasma beams that should have hit them passed harmlessly by. Missiles exploded where the ship had been a second before. How are they moving so fast? An alien voice screamed over the radio. The human ship shouldn't have been able to dodge like that. It was too big, too old, but somehow it slipped through the deadly storm of weapons fire like water through fingers. Impossible, Vextar snarled. No ship can move that fast. But the Defiant kept moving. Minji pushed the engines beyond what anyone thought they could do. She had studied every alien weapon system for years. She knew how fast their targeting computers worked. She knew how to stay one step ahead of them. Shields at 60%, Nari reported. Some shots had gotten through. The ship shook as energy beams hit the hull, but they were still alive. Return fire, Juan ordered. Tejo pressed his controls. The Defiant's weapons came to life. They looked like simple kinetic cannons, old-fashioned guns that fired metal bullets instead of energy beams. The aliens laughed when they saw them. Kinetic weapons? Vextar roared with laughter. What is this, the Stone Age? The first bullets left the human ship. They were small and simple-looking. Nothing special. The alien ships barely bothered to dodge. The bullets hit 3 destroyer ships at the same time. What happened next made the alien laughter stop. The destroyers didn't just explode. They came apart at the most basic level. Metal turned to dust. Energy systems collapsed. The ship simply stopped existing, leaving only clouds of particles that had once been matter. What in the void was that? An alien captain screamed. Vextar stared at his screens. His instruments were going crazy. The readings didn't make sense. Those simple bullets had somehow destroyed 3 ships completely. Not damaged, destroyed, erased. Sir, his weapons officer said, the energy readings from that human ship. They're impossible. Nothing is impossible. Fire everything we have. The alien fleet attacked again. This time they used every weapon they had. The space around the Defiant became a storm of death. Plasma, lasers, missiles, particle beams. Everything the most advanced species in the galaxy could create. The human ship took more hits this time. The hull glowed red-hot in places. Sparks flew on the bridge. But the ship kept moving, kept fighting. Hull damage on decks 3 and 7, Nari reported, but the main systems are holding. That was when the aliens noticed the blue glow. It started small, just a shimmer around the Defiant's hull. But it was growing stronger. The metal of the ship began to shine with an inner light that hurt to look at. "What is that energy field?" Vextar demanded. His science officer was checking every scanner they had. "Sir, I've never seen anything like it." "The energy patterns? They're affecting space itself." Taiho fired again. This time he targeted a heavy cruiser. The bullet, if that's what it really was, punched through the alien ship's shields like they weren't there. The cruiser lasted exactly 3 seconds before it dissolved into nothing. "Sir," an alien captain called over the radio, "that weapon isn't kinetic. It's doing something to our molecular structure." Vextar's golden eyes went wide. "What are you saying?" "The human weapons are tearing our ships apart at the atomic level." The blue glow around the Defiant was getting brighter. Nari watched her readings carefully. The quantum field generators were warming up nicely. Soon they would be ready for the real show. "Captain," she said quietly, "the quantum disruption array is at 30% power." Juan nodded. "Continue charging." "Tejo, target their command ships." "Yes, sir." The alien fleet was getting desperate now. They had lost 5 ships in as many minutes. Ships that should have been impossible to destroy with simple bullets. The alien captains were starting to panic. "All ships focus fire on that human vessel," Vextar ordered. "I don't care what it takes, destroy it now." 50 ships turned all their weapons on the Defiant. The attack was so massive that it lit up the entire system. Energy beams thick as tree trunks. Missiles the size of buildings. Weapons that could crack a moon. All aimed at one human ship. The Defiant disappeared inside a ball of pure destruction. For a moment, the aliens thought they had won. Vextar smiled his sharp-toothed smile. Finally. Primitive humans with their primitive technology. Then the ball of fire cleared. The Defiant was still there. Not only was it still there, it was completely undamaged. The blue glow around the ship had become a brilliant aura that wrapped around the hull like liquid light. Where the alien weapons hit this field, they simply stopped. Energy beams dissolved. Missiles turned to dust. "Impossible," Vextar whispered. "Sir," his science officer said, "that field around their ship, it's breaking down matter at the quantum level. Nothing can get through it." Juan stood up from his captain's chair. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment their whole lives. "June," he said, "open a channel to the entire alien fleet." "Channel open, sir." Juan's voice carried to every ship in the consortium fleet. 200 vessels full of aliens who had been laughing just minutes before. Now they were silent. "This is Captain Juan of the Earthship Defiant," he said. "You attacked a human vessel without warning. You have enslaved human colonies. You have declared war on humanity." The alien fleet was spreading out now, trying to get away from the glowing human ship. But there was nowhere to run. They had surrounded the Defiant, and now they were trapped with it. "You thought we were weak," Juan continued. "You thought our technology was primitive. You were wrong." Tejo fired again. This time he targeted 3 ships at once. The quantum-enhanced bullets found their targets instantly. 3 more alien vessels simply ceased to exist. "Our weapons don't just destroy your ships," Juan said. "They erase them from reality. Every atom, every molecule, gone." The blue glow around the Defiant was now so bright that it hurt to look at directly. The ship itself seemed to be made of living light. "But we're not monsters," Juan said. "We don't want to kill all of you. We just want our people back," Vextar found his voice. "You're bluffing. One ship can't defeat our entire fleet. Watch us." Nari's voice was calm as she reported to her captain. "Quantum disruption array at 50% power, sir. Ready for cascade deployment." Juan nodded. "Minji, take us to position Alpha." The Defiant began to move. Not away from the alien fleet, but toward it. Straight toward the center of their formation. The alien ships tried to stop it, firing everything they had. But their weapons were useless against the quantum field. "What are they doing?" An alien captain screamed. "They're positioning themselves in the middle of our fleet," another voice answered. "Why would they do that?" "That's suicide!" Vextar stared at his screens. The human ship was indeed moving to the exact center of his fleet formation. right where it would be surrounded by the most ships, right where a single weapon could damage dozens of vessels at once. Unless, he whispered. Sir, his weapons officer asked, unless they have a weapon that gets stronger when there are more targets. The thought was too horrible to believe. But as Vextar watched the small human ship position itself perfectly in the center of his massive fleet, he began to understand that humanity had been hiding something much worse than advanced shields and strange bullets. They had been hiding a weapon that could destroy his entire armada in one shot. All ships, he screamed into his communicator. Retreat! Get away from that human vessel. No, but it was too late. The Defiant was exactly where it wanted to be, and Nari was smiling as she watched her power readings climb higher and higher. Quantum disruption array at 75% power, she reported. The real battle was about to begin. Quantum disruption array at 100% power, Nari announced. The blue glow around the Defiant became something beyond light. It was like looking at a piece of the universe itself, torn open and blazing with impossible energy. The human ship sat in the exact center of the alien fleet, surrounded by 200 enemy vessels. Exactly where Juan wanted it to be. All ships, full retreat, Admiral Vextar screamed across the communication channels. Get away from that human ship! But the alien fleet was too big. Too many ships packed too close together. They had surrounded the Defiant so completely that now they couldn't escape their own trap. Ships crashed into each other as they tried to flee. Smaller vessels were caught between the massive battleships. The perfect formation that had looked so impressive just minutes before was now a disaster waiting to happen. Sir, Minji said calmly, all ships are in position. Juan looked at his crew. 4 people who had trained their entire lives for this moment. 4 humans who were about to change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. This is what we trained for, he said quietly. What humanity has been preparing for since we first looked at the stars. The day when someone would try to destroy us simply because they thought they could. Tejo's hands were steady on his weapons controls. Target selected, sir. The Cascade torpedo is ready. Nari watched her quantum readings. Field generators at maximum output. Cascade matrix is stable. June opened channels to every alien ship in the fleet. All vessels will receive this message simultaneously. Minji checked her navigation one last time. Escape route calculated and ready. Juan stepped to the center of the bridge. Through the view screen, he could see alien ships scrambling to get away. Some were firing their engines so hard that the heat was turning their hulls red. Others were abandoning their positions and fleeing in random directions. None of them would be fast enough. This is Captain Juan to all consortium vessels, he said. You came here to take human colonies. You brought 200 ships to fight 5 humans. You thought we would be easy prey. A Saurian destroyer was trying to break away from the fleet. Its engines were at full power, pushing the ship as fast as it could go. But it was still inside the target zone. You were wrong about everything, Juan continued. Our technology, our capabilities, our resolve. An alien cruiser tried to jump to faster than light speed. The quantum field around the Defiant interfered with their jump drive. The ship flickered and reappeared, trapped with all the others, but most of all, you were wrong about what happens when you threaten human families. Fire the Cascade torpedo, Juan ordered. Tejo pressed the firing button. What left the Defiant didn't look like much. It was smaller than the kinetic bullets they had been firing. Just a tiny point of light that moved slowly toward the nearest alien ship. The alien captain saw it coming. He tried to dodge. He fired his point defense systems. He did everything he could to stop one small projectile. It didn't matter. The Cascade torpedo passed through the alien ship's shields like they weren't there. It touched the hull of the enemy vessel, and the ship simply ceased to exist. One moment there was a mighty warship. The next moment there was nothing but empty space. But that was just the beginning. Where the alien ship had been, space itself began to change. A sphere of twisted energy appeared, growing larger and larger. It reached out toward the nearest alien vessels like hungry fingers made of light. What is that thing? An alien captain screamed. The energy field touched another ship. This one was bigger, a heavy battleship with thick armor and powerful shields. The field wrapped around it like a blanket, and the battleship dissolved. Not exploded. Dissolved. Every atom in the ship broke apart and fed energy back into the growing field. It's a chain reaction, Vextar whispered in horror. That weapon creates a chain reaction. The field was growing faster now. Each ship it destroyed made it stronger. Each death fed it more power. It spread from vessel to vessel like a disease, but a disease that destroyed matter itself. An alien destroyer tried to outrun the expanding field. The ship pushed its engines past the breaking point, leaving a trail of fire behind it. For a moment, it looked like it might escape. The field caught up to it in seconds. The destroyer vanished, and the field grew larger still. "Sir," an alien communications officer called to his captain, "the quantum field is moving faster than our engines. We can't outrun it." "Then we fight it," the captain replied. 3 alien cruisers turned their weapons on the expanding field. Plasma cannons fired at maximum power. Energy beams that could melt mountains struck the quantum distortion. The weapons passed right through it. The field kept growing. Then it reached the cruisers. Vextar watched his mighty fleet disappear ship by ship. Vessels he had commanded for years. Crews he had known personally. All of them erased from existence by a weapon that fed on their destruction. "How?" he asked his science officer. "How is this possible?" "The field is breaking molecular bonds at the quantum level," the terrified alien replied. "When matter breaks down, it releases energy. That energy feeds back into the field, making it stronger and faster. Can we stop it? I don't know. I've never seen anything like this." The Cascade field was now covering nearly a quarter of the alien fleet. 50 ships had already been destroyed. The field was accelerating, moving faster as it consumed more vessels. "All remaining ships," Vextar broadcast. "Emergency jump to hyperspace. Get out of this system now." But jumping to hyperspace took time. Time to charge the engines. Time to calculate the jump. Time that the alien fleet didn't have. The quantum field reached a group of smaller vessels, frigates and destroyers that had been trying to escape. They vanished one by one like candles being blown out. On the bridge of the Defiant, Nari watched her instruments carefully. The Cascade was working exactly as planned, but it was also more powerful than even she had expected. "Captain," she said, "the field is expanding faster than our calculations predicted. At this rate, it will consume the entire alien fleet in less than 10 minutes. Juan nodded. "And then it will start to collapse on itself. The energy will dissipate harmlessly. But the aliens don't know that," Minji observed. She was right. To the consortium fleet, it looked like the human weapon would keep growing forever. They had no way to know that it would stop by itself. Vexitar's flagship was one of the larger ships positioned further from the Cascade's starting point. But even his massive dreadnought wouldn't be safe for long. "Admiral," his weapons officer said, "the field will reach us in approximately 7 minutes. Vextar stared at the view screen. Half his fleet was already gone. The greatest armada the consortium had ever assembled. Destroyed by a single human ship. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "the humans are sending us a message. Put it through." Juan's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Defiant looked calm and peaceful. No alarms, no panic. Just 4 humans doing their job. "Admiral Vextar," Juan said, "you now understand what human technology can do, but you should also understand what human mercy looks like." "Mercy?" Vextar snarled. "You call this mercy? You're destroying my entire fleet." "I could have fired the Cascade torpedo when we first arrived," Juan replied calmly. "Your entire fleet would have been gone in the first minute. Instead, I gave you a chance to surrender. You chose to fight. Another group of alien ships vanished into the expanding field. But I'm giving you another chance," Juan continued. "Order your remaining ships to power down their weapons. Agree to our terms. Do this now, and I will stop the Cascade before it reaches you." "Stop it?" Vextar's science officer whispered. "Sir, if they can stop that weapon," the implications were terrifying. If the humans could control the Cascade field, then they had been holding back. Everything the aliens had seen so far was just a demonstration. "What are your terms?" Vextar asked. "Simple. Release all human colonies immediately. Withdraw from human space. And never threaten human civilians again." Vextar looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at him, waiting for his decision. Outside, the quantum field was consuming what remained of his outer ships, and if I refuse? Juan's expression didn't change. "Then in 5 minutes, you'll be the first Saurian admiral to command a fleet of 0 ships." The Cascade field touched a group of heavy cruisers. They lasted longer than the smaller ships, almost 30 seconds before they dissolved completely. "Admiral," his weapons officer said urgently, The field will reach us in 4 minutes. Vexitar closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had changed. The arrogance was gone. The cruel laughter was gone. For the first time in his life, he understood what it felt like to be completely, utterly defeated. All ships, he said into his communicator. Power down weapons. Surrender to the human vessel, sir. Several voices called back. You heard me, Vexitar roared. Surrender now or we all die. Across the remaining alien fleet, weapons powered down. Ships that had been trying to escape stopped their engines. The mighty consortium armada surrendered to a single human frigate. Juan nodded to Nari. Stopping the cascade, she reported, the expanding quantum field suddenly stopped growing. For a moment it held steady, a sphere of twisted space that had consumed over half of the alien fleet. Then slowly it began to shrink. The field collapsed in on itself, the energy dissipating harmlessly. The surviving alien ships floated in space like broken toys. 80 vessels remained out of the original 200. They had powered down their weapons and stopped their engines, waiting to learn their fate. Admiral Vexitar sat in his command chair, staring at the empty space where half his fleet used to be. His golden eyes were dull now. The proud Saurian warrior who had laughed at humanity just an hour ago looked like he had aged 10 years. Admiral, his communications officer said quietly, the human captain is requesting a direct channel. Open it. Juan's face appeared on the main screen. He looked exactly the same as when the battle had started. Calm, controlled, professional. As if erasing 120 warships from existence was just another day at work. Admiral Vexitar, Juan said, I want to make something clear. We didn't come here to destroy your fleet. We came here to free human colonies. Everything that happened here was your choice. Vexitar's voice was rough when he spoke. What do you want from us? First, the immediate release of all human colonies under consortium control. Send the order now. Vexitar looked at his communications officer and nodded. The alien's hand shook as he sent the message across the galaxy. Within hours, human colonies that had been enslaved for years would be free. Second, Juan continued, full withdrawal of all consortium forces from human space. You have 7 days to remove every ship, every station, every probe. That will leave entire sectors undefended, Vexitar protested. That's not our problem. You should have thought about that before you attacked our people. June was monitoring communication channels across the fleet. The alien crews were talking among themselves, and what he heard was interesting. Captain, he said quietly. The other alien captains they're not angry at us. They're angry at Admiral Vexitar for leading them into this disaster. It was true. On ship after ship, alien officers were questioning their commander's decisions. Why had they attacked the humans without trying to understand their technology first? Why had Vexitar been so confident that primitive humanity would be an easy target? Third, Juan said, you will provide full compensation to every human family that was harmed by consortium actions, medical care, replacement of property, and payment for lost income. The consortium doesn't have those kinds of resources, Vexitar said. Then you'll find them. Sell ships if you have to. The alternative is that we visit every consortium world personally. The threat was clear. Every alien in the fleet had seen what human technology could do. The thought of that quantum cascade weapon being used against their home planets was terrifying. Fourth and final, Juan said, you will issue a formal apology to the human government and people. You will admit that you underestimated us, that you attacked us without cause, and that you were wrong. This was the hardest demand for Vexitar. Saurian pride was legendary throughout the galaxy. They never admitted weakness or defeat. But as he looked at the empty space where his ships used to be, pride seemed less important than survival. I agree to all your terms, he said. Good, but before we finish here, I want you to understand something important. Juan's expression became more serious. What you saw today was not humanity's most powerful weapon. It was just one ship, with basic defensive systems and a single cascade torpedo. We have ships that make the Defiant look like a toy. This was a lie, but the aliens didn't know that. As far as they knew, humanity had an entire fleet of ships with quantum cascade weapons. But more importantly, Juan continued, you need to understand why we won. It wasn't because our technology is better than yours. It's because we were fighting for something that mattered. Nari looked up from her controls. Captain, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Word about the battle is spreading fast. What kind of messages? Diplomatic contact requests from 17 different species. Trade offers from 32 worlds, and... She paused. Surrender request from 3 consortium member worlds. The news was traveling at light speed through quantum communication networks. Within hours, every species in the galaxy would know that humanity had destroyed half of the consortium's fleet with a single ship. Admiral, Juan said to Vextar, you're going to find that your political situation has changed dramatically. Some of your allies are already switching sides. It was true. On Vextar's own communication channels, he could see the messages coming in. Member species of the consortium were announcing their withdrawal from the alliance. Trade partners were canceling contracts. Military allies were quietly distancing themselves from the Saurian Empire. Sir, Vextar's science officer said quietly, we're receiving a message from the home world.
The Emperor wants to speak with you immediately. Vextar closed his eyes.
The Saurian Emperor did not like failure, especially failure on this scale. Captain Juan, he said, may I ask you something? Go ahead. Why didn't you destroy all of us? You could have. Your weapon could have erased our entire fleet. Juan was quiet for a moment before answering. Because we're not monsters, Admiral. We don't kill people just because we can. We came here to save human lives, not to take alien lives, but we would have killed you without hesitation. Yes, and that's the difference between us. Taiho spoke for the first time since the battle ended. Captain, we should escort the surviving ships to the nearest human outpost. Make sure the surrender is official. Agreed. Admiral Vextar, your remaining ships will accompany us to Kepler Station. There you will formally surrender to human authorities and sign the agreement for colony releases. And then you go home and explain to your people how 80 alien ships surrendered to 5 humans. The journey to Kepler Station took 6 hours. During that time, more messages arrived from across the galaxy. Species that had never paid attention to humanity before were sending diplomatic envoys. The Galactic Trade Consortium was falling apart as member worlds abandoned the alliance. Most interesting were the messages from individual alien captains in the surviving fleet. Many of them were asking about human technology. Some were offering to defect and join the human space forces. A few were requesting asylum, saying they couldn't return to their homeworlds after such a defeat. Captain, Minji said, we're approaching Kepler Station. The human outpost appeared on their screens. It was small compared to the alien ships, but it represented something important, the growing edge of human space. Soon that edge would expand much further. This is Kepler Station Control, a human voice said over the radio. Captain Juan, the entire galaxy is talking about what you did. The media is calling it the Battle of Kepler 442. Some are calling it the day humanity joined the galactic community. Copy that, Control. We're bringing in 80 surrendering alien vessels for formal processing. Understood. We've prepared facilities for the alien crews. Also, sir, you should know, we've received over 300 requests for interviews. Apparently, everyone wants to talk to the crew of the Defiant. Juan looked at his crew. Nari was running final diagnostics on the quantum systems. Taiho was powering down weapons. Minji was calculating docking approaches for 80 alien ships. June was monitoring the flood of communications from across known space. We'll deal with the interviews later, Juan said. Right now, we have a surrender to accept. The ceremony was held in Kepler Station's main docking bay. It was hastily arranged, but it would be remembered throughout galactic history. Admiral Vextar, flanked by his surviving captains, formally surrendered the consortium fleet to Captain Juan and his crew. The documents were signed. The colony release orders were transmitted. Compensation agreements were established. And for the first time in galactic history, a major alien power admitted complete defeat to humanity. Captain, Vextar said as the ceremony ended, I have learned something today. About humans. About war. About what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness. What's that, Admiral? That there are worse things than being conquered by an enemy. There's being conquered by an enemy who is better than you are. Juan shook the alien's hand. It was a strange sight. A human and a Saurian, former enemies, showing respect for each other. Admiral, Juan said, when you get home, remember this moment. Remember that humans offered you peace and you chose war. Next time we offer peace, I suggest you take it. Vextar nodded slowly. There won't be a next time, Captain. I can promise you that. As the alien crews prepared to return to their homeworlds, news kept pouring in from across the galaxy. The consortium government was in chaos. Member species were declaring independence. Trade routes were being redrawn. And at the center of it all, humanity was no longer seen as a primitive backwater species. They were now recognized as a major galactic power, one that preferred peace but was perfectly capable of war. So what happens now? Nari asked. Juan looked out at the stars. Now we go home. Earth is waiting to hear what we accomplished here. And after that we get ready for whatever comes next. Because something tells me the galaxy just got a lot more interesting for humanity. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, the galaxy was a very different place. Captain Juan stood in his quarters aboard the Defiant, reading the latest intelligence reports. Outside his window, Earth's moon hung in space like a pearl against black velvet. He was home, but the quiet didn't feel the same anymore. "Captain?" June's voice came through the intercom. "You have a visitor. Send them in." The door opened, and Admiral Vextar walked into the room. The proud Saurian looked older now, and there was something different in his golden eyes. Something that might have been wisdom. "Admiral," Juan said, standing up, "I didn't expect to see you here." "I requested permission to visit Earth," Vextar said. "Your government was surprised, but they agreed to let me come." The two former enemies stood facing each other. 6 months ago, they had been trying to kill each other. Now they were meeting as something close to equals. "How are things in consortium space?" Juan asked. Vextar made a sound that might have been laughter, but there was no humor in it. "There is no consortium anymore. The alliance fell apart within a month of our defeat. 12 member species all going their separate ways. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be. It was built on conquest and fear. When we showed that we could be defeated, there was nothing left to hold it together." Vextar moved to the window and looked out at Earth's blue surface. "Your planet is beautiful," he said. "Hard to believe such a small world could produce warriors like you." "We're not warriors," Juan said. "We're just people protecting our families." "Yes, I understand that now." The Saurian turned back to face Juan. "I came here to thank you." "Thank me? I destroyed half your fleet. You could have destroyed all of it. You could have used that cascade weapon on our home worlds. Instead, you showed mercy to an enemy who would have shown you none." Juan sat down and gestured for Vextar to do the same. "What are you doing now?" he asked. "I've been traveling," Vextar said, "visiting the species that used to be in the consortium, trying to help them prepare for what comes next, which is a galaxy where humans are a major power. Some species are adapting well, others—" He shook his head. "Others are making the same mistakes we made. They think you're still weak. They think what happened at Kepler was a fluke. And what do you tell them?" Vextar's laugh was genuine this time. "I tell them about watching 120 warships simply cease to exist. I tell them about a human captain who could have committed genocide but chose mercy instead. Most of them don't listen." Juan walked to his desk and picked up a datapad. It contained reports from across human space. Colonies that were expanding, trade routes that were opening, diplomatic missions that were being planned. "The freed colonies are doing well," he said. "The families that were separated are back together. New settlements are being established." "I know. I visited some of them." "You did?" "I wanted to see what we had been fighting for. What made humans so determined to protect those worlds?" Vextar was quiet for a moment. "I met a human child whose parents had been enslaved for 3 years. She didn't know me, but she thanked me for helping to free them." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That I was the one who enslaved them in the first place. That I was the enemy her parents told her stories about." Juan looked up, surprised. "And what did she say?" "She said that everyone makes mistakes, but what matters is trying to fix them." Vextar's voice was soft. Wisdom from a 7-year-old human child. There was a knock at the door. Nari, Tejo, and Minji entered together. They had all been promoted after the battle, but they had requested to stay together as a crew. "Captain," Nari said, "we've received new orders from Fleet Command." "What kind of orders?" "Diplomatic mission to the Andromeda Contact Zone. There are 3 species there that want to establish formal relations with humanity." Tejo added, "Intelligence suggests they're looking for protection against some of the former consortium worlds that are still trying to build empires. When do we leave?" Juan asked. 2 days, Minji replied. "The Defiant has been upgraded with new quantum systems. Nari's been working with the engineers on improvements to the Cascade weapon." Vextar listened to this conversation with interest. "You're still using the same ship?" "Of course," Juan said. "She's proven herself." Fleet Command offered us a new heavy cruiser, Nari explained. Latest technology, bigger weapons, larger crew. We turned it down. Why? Taiho spoke up, which was unusual for him. Because it's not about the size of the ship. It's about the people inside it. Vextar nodded slowly. I'm beginning to understand how you think. June entered the room carrying a communication device. Captain, we're receiving priority messages from across the galaxy. The news networks want updates on human expansion. The diplomatic corps needs briefings on new contact protocols and... He paused. We have 17 more requests from alien species wanting to join human space forces. 17? Juan asked. Including 3 more Saurians, June said, looking at Vextar. My people are pragmatic, Vextar explained. They see which way the galactic winds are blowing. Many of our younger officers want to serve with the species that showed them what real strength looks like. Minji was checking her datapad. Captain, we've also received confirmation that the memorial service for the alien crews lost at Kepler will be held next week. Representatives from all the affected species will be attending. This was something Juan had insisted on. Even though the alien crews had been trying to kill them, they deserved to be remembered. Humanity might be strong, but they wouldn't let strength make them cruel. Will you be attending? Juan asked Vextar. Yes, I lost many good officers in that battle. They deserves to be honored even if they were fighting on the wrong side. Nari looked thoughtful. You know what's strange? 6 months ago, we were just a single ship trying to free some colonies. Now everyone's calling us heroes and half the galaxy wants to be our ally. And the other half? Taiho asked. The other half is either afraid of us or planning to test us, June said. Intelligence reports suggest at least 6 species are developing weapons specifically designed to counter our quantum technology. Vextar leaned forward. They won't succeed. I've seen the reports from our scientists. Your quantum disruption technology isn't just advanced. It's based on principles that most species don't even understand yet. What makes you so sure? Minji asked. Because we've been trying to copy it for 6 months and we haven't even figured out how it works. Juan walked back to the window. Earth looked peaceful from space, but he knew that down on the surface things were changing rapidly. New military academies were being built. Research facilities were expanding. Shipyards were working around the clock to build vessels for an expanding human presence in the galaxy. Sometimes I wonder if we're ready for all this, he said. Ready for what? Nari asked, being a major galactic power. Having other species look to us for protection, making decisions that affect billions of lives across dozens of worlds. Vextar stood up and joined him at the window. Captain, let me tell you something about power. Real power isn't about having the biggest weapons or the most ships. It's about making the right choices when everything depends on you. And you think we're making the right choices? You spared my life when you could have killed me. You freed slaves instead of taking them for yourself. You built memorials for your enemies. Yes, I think you're making the right choices. The door chimed again. This time it was a young ensign carrying a sealed message. Captain Juan, the ensign said. Priority communication from Earth Defense Command. Juan took the message and read it quickly. His expression didn't change, but his crew knew him well enough to see that something important was happening. What is it? Nari asked. New intelligence from the Outer Rim. A species called the Hegemony is conquering independent worlds. They've heard about what happened at Kepler and they want to test human resolve. How many ships? Taiho asked. 500, maybe more. The room was quiet for a moment. 500 ships was more than twice the size of the consortium fleet they had faced at Kepler. When do they arrive in human space? Minji asked. 3 months. Vextar shook his head. They're making the same mistake we did. They think one battle was a fluke. They don't understand what they're really facing. What are we really facing? June asked. Juan folded the message and put it in his pocket. We're facing the same choice we faced at Kepler. Protect what we care about or let bullies think they can take it from us. And what's our answer? Nari asked, though she already knew. Juan looked at his crew. 4 people who had become the most famous humans in the galaxy. 4 people who had changed the course of galactic history with a single battle. Our answer is the same as it always has been, he said. We protect our families. All of them. Human and alien alike. Vextar smiled his sharp-toothed smile, but this time it was friendly. Captain, if you ever need an advisor who understands how arrogant alien empires think, I would be honored to serve. I'll keep that in mind. Admiral, as the group prepared to leave, Juan took one last look at Earth. Somewhere down there, Children were being born who would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was respected and feared. They would have opportunities that previous generations could never have imagined. But they would also have responsibilities. The universe was vast and full of species who might see humans as threats, opportunities.